Actually, what I'm going to ask for is if we do this, and if I can bring on one more hire, maybe a salesperson, to just like search. Yeah. And like I mean, the person won't take themselves. Yeah. But if we could do this, then they could bring in money for other like sponsorships for Austin. But I mean, it's not just. Yeah. So people pay for themselves. Maybe bring in those.
Okay. Thank you.
Should I do it? I don't know. Oh, alright. Wait, that's not for me. Where's the photo? Yeah, oh, those are not for me. Did you get a copy?
Yeah, I asked for a copy.
It's right here.
But so did Stefan. Maybe Stefan taking this.
What's that?
I don't know where you're going to drink this.
Yeah, I was
Audience.
I don't know, but we are pretty far behind, and Patrick is up next, so I would like to get us moving. They say that they have 10,000 people on our live stream. Okay, let's get it moving, my friend.
What's that?
Five.
Come on, please. I know I'm from Hollywood, but I like to buffer the.
Where do you want to sit?
Hi. Oh, look, there's stuff. There's okay.
Okay. So.
You ready for us? Do you have microphones? Do we need microphones?
Yeah, we need.
We have our
sound over here.
Yeah, but we need a microphone also.
Yeah. I don't. There's a microphone there.
Yeah,
do we have to pass it?
You have to pass it.
Okay. That might not work, but.
And this came from. We had several microphones, but we noticed that passing is easier because sometimes somebody speaking ahead. So, like as moderator, you can take the microphone back.
Not so. Do you have two more mics? Or you
Right now we have only one. The other one has no battery. So, can I just have the mic?
Move this a little bit. I don't know. It's like right in my way. Is this ready?
Hello.
Should probably be closer so that can capture the sound. Oh, so is this capturing
This is the sound. That's the boom for the sound.
Oh, gotcha. So no microphones then, or?
Okay. This is a microphone, but this is the actual. This captures your voice. The microphone is just to give it a more volume.
Should we close the door a little?
Hey, so the microphone is not functioning. Where's George?
Hi.
Okay, I'll put it on there.
We should have brought our own audience, like, have like a couple of PLers come through.
Well, we wait.
Good morning.
It's like here.
Good to train your voice.
La 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 la.
Yeah, if you haven't like
That's true. I haven't
spoken
like,
a lot this morning,
I
then
have not really
like,
spoken this morning.
yeah. Interplanetary file system.
Is all that information correct? Oh. We'll see.
Basically, a little bit correct.
Just give it a second. So yeah, the entry is whatever. It's fine. So weird. It's fine.
The interplanetary file system. No.
Or not. Just like it's
I think you're just saying that it's like silly.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just saying. It's the interplanetary. Are you going to talk about Lockheed? You should.
Oh, I can. Sure.
This is going to be a conversation.
Here's that.
I was thinking we're going past it first.
Just to take it. You have
I
to
don't
take
think
it.
so. I think
Go
we're
do
just,
15 minutes?
well, we'll do. And we're actually like,
Hello.
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 Okay. Is this live streaming already?
I paused it
Okay. Put it on. Thank you very much. Welcome to day number 3 of Digital Davos. I overgive the panel to Rachel Horn. She is the moderator, and thank you very much, Rachel, for moderating the panel.
Thanks for having us. We are here today. I'm here with two of my wonderful and esteemed colleagues in the Filecoin ecosystem, Megan Clement from the Filecoin Foundation, Stefan Verrett from Protocol Labs, and we're going to talk about Filecoin, IPFS, what the network is, how it works, the teams that are building on it, and why you should give it a second look if you haven't given it a first. But I want to start by passing the mic off to my two panelists to introduce themselves, give us a little bit of background about how you got into this ecosystem.
Thanks so much, Rachel. So like Rachel said, my name is Megan Clement, and I'm the founding officer of the Filecoin Foundation. And my background's actually in biotech. I got into decentralized storage when I realized the ways that large files are really inhibiting the way that we do science. The very progress of humanity from a scientific perspective is really being stopped right now by how difficult it is to share files in a secure and decentralized way. It makes it hard to prove things, and it's really inhibiting the pace of science moving forward.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Stefan Verrett. I've been in this space for a little bit over 2 years. Before that, I worked for an infrastructure company. I've been in infrastructure for my last 20 years. Did 2 startups, and when I looked at how things were decentralized, I looked at Protocol Labs, Filecoin, and saw it as a perfect opportunity for us to democratize how data is being utilized and how users can take back control over their data assets. And so today we have a fantastic platform, huge network that we can talk about, but it's amazing to see that worldwide, not just me, but also across 44 different countries, we have enthusiast entrepreneurs that are taking control of their own hands and actually contributing to the Filecoin ecosystem. That's really why I'm here.
Great. So I think we should start by explaining for those who are watching live stream and those in the room who may not be familiar with the Filecoin network and with IPFS, just like a brief couple-minute what it is, why it works, and why decentralized storage. What's wrong with AWS and the current centralized platforms that most of us are comfortable using today?
You want to start off, Stefan?
Sure. So first we have IPFS. IPFS is a distributed storage layer that allows you to address and store your data based on a cryptographic hash instead of an IP address as we know it today, which allows you to kind of decouple the location where the data is actually stored from the data itself, so that you can build this truly decentralized stack where data is really addressed based on its content itself. And so that allows us to do a lot of things, meaning you can sort of decouple the actual physical location, the actual hosting provider that's hosting the data, and so that allows us to build a fully decentralized network that's actually built by the community, where Filecoin is sort of an incentive layer on top of IPFS, so it's basically built on the foundation of IPFS that is allowing storage providers, as we call them, to provide storage to an ecosystem of users, and those users could be consumers, enterprises that are storing data in an open marketplace where any enterprise can sort of contribute storage to the network, and any user can take advantage of that open marketplace. And so because it's an open marketplace, there's a ton of benefits that we can talk about.
Awesome. Another way to think about it is, an analogy we use a lot is it's like Airbnb for cloud storage. We built the software that facilitates this ecosystem. So we're not running the data centers, we're not the ones with the data, but we allow anybody to participate in this marketplace. So to the other part of your question, Rachel, why do this? Why do we care about centralization? Whereas the internet started off was an open network that had many different servers in it and was largely decentralized. The internet of today is accessed through a few central points, a few bottlenecks. So most people across the world, when they go on the internet, they do it through Facebook. This means that there's inherent security risks and risks around privacy. A single point of failure means that when an Amazon server goes down, big swaths of business will lose the ability to operate for hours, maybe even days. We know that when a couple companies have a monopoly, it really slows innovation, and they lose that competitive reason to be able to really serve the customers. Also, having a couple central points means that you don't really have control over your data. These companies that are controlling your access, either the ones storing your data, like Amazon, Google, or Azure with Microsoft, or the companies that are the bottlenecks to get onto the internet, companies such like Facebook, are points where they can analyze your data, and your data isn't really your own.
That's really very helpful, good, clear explainers. And so, Stefan, you talked about IPFS and how it works. The Foundation had an announcement this week around IPFS in a collaboration with Lockheed Martin Space. Megan, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I think this is an incredibly exciting next step that we are taking for the Filecoin ecosystem. So the Filecoin Foundation, along with Lockheed Martin, is sending satellite into space to run an IPFS node, to be able to allow internet access in space. This is something that's only possible because of the decentralized nature of the Filecoin system and the IPFS system. This means that instead of having location-based data that would have to come to a server on Earth, any node in this IPFS system floating in space that had that data could be identified by that cryptographic hash attached to the data, this content ID, and the data could be pulled. So if you're on the moon and you need to get some information, if that information is on a local server, on an IPFS node, you're able to pull it without having that long delay of going back to Earth. It also is really exciting in the ways that it sets open standards for communication for space. Because space has been something that traditionally happens through proprietary government systems, there's not a lot of open communication. And that those open standards are really the things that the original internet is built on. And so it's setting the framework for many other businesses and opportunities to be built on top of this for the space economy.
Great. So that's wonderful. That's really exciting. And Lockheed is a great partner for a project like this. I like how you framed, Megan, that this is like the software layer, or the software, and then it's up to all different groups, teams, organizations across the ecosystem to build to create the storage centers, to build the applications and other tools to make this network really vibrant. So, Stefan, maybe you can tell us about some of the other players across the Filecoin ecosystem, like who's building, what are they building, tell us about storage providers, how many there are, and what they're storing, and how much of it they're storing, how it all works.
Yeah, perfect. So today we actually have more than 4,000 systems worldwide. So these are entities that are storing or that are running the Filecoin stack on physical hardware. So they have capacity, storage capacity, compute, and those are distributed across more than 44 countries, which is amazing. We have a total of more than 14 or 15 exabyte, up to 15 exabytes of capacity today, of which now we've reached actually half an exabyte of actual data being stored on the network. To give you an example of what that means, if you would be recording 4K resolution on your iPhone for 37 million hours, that's the total amount of data that you can store. So we're talking about
only 37.
Only 37 million hours. So it would be like recording for more than 4,000 years, right? You're sitting there with your camera. So right, that's the amount of data that we've actually stored so far in the last 2.5 years alone. And most of that data was actually uploaded just last year. So we have seen a really huge hockey stick effect, and it is because the network effect of having so many systems globally available and so many contributors to the network, because most of our storage providers that are not only hosting data, they're also storage providers that are bringing network or bringing customers to the network. And some of these customers today are customers like, as you were mentioning, we have doing partnerships with Lockheed Martin, but we also have a lot of research institutes today, like UC Berkeley, University of Utah, that are actually storing research data onto the network. And the main reason there is that they really care about, as a researcher, right? Imagine yourself as a researcher, you want to spend as much time as you can in doing the analytics, right? You capture the data, you're analyzing. So most of your budget that you're getting through these grants, you want to allocate that towards the compute side. And even though you have a limited budget, right? You want to focus as much as actually finding insights. And so what we are doing here is we are allowing them to store those precious assets, which in a lot of cases they're required to store for 3 years or more, on a distributed network that is not only meant for preserving data for the long term, but it's also a decentralized network that enables them to store data in an immutable and verifiable way. And that is really important because when you talk to these researchers, what they care about is that every single bit that they capture, right, that it's stored exactly in the same way as they captured it, so that in 5 years from now, when they want to go back, they have a new algorithm, they can run their analytics through it again and maybe find new insights. And that's really the key of our stack, is that it's really immutable because it's decentralized, meaning there's no single entity that has central control and can just take over and override or maliciously, change the data. That is not possible in our network. And because of that, there's sort of like guaranteed, also through the cryptographic hashes that we run in the background, that the integrity of the data is contained. And that is super crucial when you're dealing with like very valuable assets like these researchers are working with.
That's great. So you talked about some of the university collaborations that we have, that the foundation is working on in particular. And of course, we should premise all of this by saying that the mission of the Filecoin Network is to preserve humanity's most important information. So, why start with universities? Why start with city and government data sets? Because these are really valuable data sets, and if you lose them, traditionally, most of these organizations are spending a lot of money to store 3 copies. And so if you can store multiple copies across a distributed network, it's more secure, more reliable, right? More resilient. Megan, maybe you can tell us about some of the other partnerships. Like I know that there's been some news around the Starling Lab work that is funded by Filecoin Foundation. Tell us more about that.
Absolutely. We are really excited to partner with Starling Labs, which is a group that also works with Stanford, the USC Shoah Foundation. This group, in the spirit of holding on to humanity's most important knowledge, has been bringing Holocaust survivor stories onto the Filecoin network for long-term preservation. They've been doing this for a number of years. More recently, they've expanded out into looking at the crisis in Ukraine and documenting the atrocities that are happening, the real war crimes that are happening there. And using the cryptographic hashes, they're able to prove that this evidence they are collecting of war crimes in Ukraine is untampered, so that it's able to be used in the International Criminal Court. It's really, really powerful work, and it wouldn't be possible without the unique features of decentralized storage and the Filecoin network.
So I have to ask, Stefan, what's the catch here? What is standing in the way of broad adoption and usability, and what can people do to bring more data, more storage providers, more storage clients onto the network?
Good point. So we have a lot of work to do, but there's a lot of good momentum happening right now. So just looking back at, I've done 2 startups, and when I look back at the successful moment, or when we made the most progress, it was in a downturn. It was in a moment where a lot of the stakeholders had a very limited budget, and they were looking at alternative solutions. And so today, Filecoin is a perfect alternative solution to anyone who's looking to store data and preserve data for long term. So if you're looking at using, or if you're currently using Amazon or Google or Microsoft, you're storing your precious assets in the cloud, let's say, or even if you're storing it on premises, Filecoin can reduce your cost up to 20x. I mean, today it's almost basically free to store data on the Filecoin network, just because we're in this early stage where there's a lot more capacity than there is demand. Because as I mentioned, we have 15 exabyte of available capacity, and we only have half an exabyte only. I mean, as I said, that's already a lot of data, but so there's a lot of opportunity there to store data. So today we have, there's a couple of things that we're working on to help enterprises to come onto the network. Because Rachel, as you mentioned, it's there's still a lot of work to be done. So what we're doing is we're working on partnerships, and we're actually building partnerships with some key integrators in the Web 2 world. So for example, we started the Decentralized Storage Alliance 3 months ago with Ernst & Young, Seagate, and a couple of other partners like AMD, for example, that are helping us to bring this new Web3 technology, this decentralized storage stack, to the Web2 enterprise customers, to educate them on how they can take advantage. Because naturally, the first step is, as what we were just talking about, is moving some of these archives that you currently have stored on tape or local storage or in the cloud onto to Filecoin. And we will help you essentially preserve your precious assets. And second is through tooling, really like building the necessary integrations. So we invest very heavily in a huge startup ecosystem. We have now more than 500 startups building on top of Filecoin that are in a funded state, and that is like those are startups that are building alternatives to Spotify, YouTube, backup tools, archive tools, NFT marketplaces. We store more than 120 million NFTs already on Filecoin alone. I mean, we store a ton of precious data. So if you are an enterprise customer, or you're a researcher, or you're looking at storing open public data sets, then please come to Filecoin.io and follow us, and we'll help you there in that process, because we have a dedicated team that is helping these enterprise customers to come on board through our partner ecosystem.
So we have a few minutes left. Before we wrap up, I do want to take some time to talk about the environmental impacts of blockchain, and in particular, some of the innovative tools and programs that are in the Filecoin network to manage, to track carbon emissions, and to think about how to make this a more green, sustainable blockchain. Megan, tell us more about that work.
Yeah, absolutely. I think blockchain has really gotten a bad rap for being a large consumer of energy, where in actuality the blockchain industry, for being such a young industry, has really done kind of an amazing job of really quickly realizing this problem, addressing it, and moving forward with real, actual, tangible solutions. I think one of the challenges that you have with traditional industries and traditional technologies is they weren't built with transparency or the ability to verify in mind. Whereas these are core attributes of blockchain. These are really inherent to the fundamental concept of blockchain. So on the Filecoin network, we have a program called Filecoin Green, which is a really incredible program. It's an incredibly rigorous methodology for looking at energy consumption used by the Filecoin network in a localized way. So looking at the exact energy consumption used by a single storage provider, a single data center, looking at their exact location, even the time of day that the energy is being used, so that they know in a real and verifiable way how much of this energy is renewable, and can make decisions about how to increase the amount of renewable energy. In fact, the Filecoin Foundation has given almost $1 million in grants for renewable energy credits. In addition to that, the Filecoin Foundation has been working with Filecoin Green on CO2.storage, which is a way of verifiably and immutably storing all of the surrounding data around carbon credits. Carbon credits are this really exciting way to be able to use the efficiencies of a market to get the kind of change that you need and the amount of carbon that's being consumed by an energy source. But they've gotten a bad rap because there are carbon credits that are much lower quality than other carbon credits. And because it's sort of a new system, we're still sussing out which carbon credits are really making a difference in global climate change. CO2 storage, by maintaining all of the surrounding information about these carbon credits in a verifiable, immutable, not changeable way, means that carbon credits have kind of validity that they've never had before, and really lets us use all this promise of being able to use the market to cheaply and efficiently change climate for the better. And it lets us actually do that and get these promises to actually be fulfilled.
Great. All right, so last question for you both. I want to know, it's two parts. One is, where do you see the network in the next 12 months? What are the biggest opportunities? What are you most looking forward to? I guess all of that together. So I will start with you, Stefan. Where are we headed, and what are you most excited about?
Yeah, so a couple of things. One, we are releasing a virtual, our FVM, or virtual machine. Why is that really exciting? It's exciting because now you will not only be able to store data on Filecoin, but you'll also be able to run smart contracts. So imagine you're running a dApp on Ethereum or Polygon. You can actually move that over to the Filecoin network. And so that means that if, let's say, you're running an NFT marketplace, you can also mint your NFT now and store your digital NFT on Filecoin on the same network. So that's really exciting because that will open up a ton of new opportunities and business cases and use cases like data DAOs, data unions, which is very exciting. So we're seeing a huge new ecosystem coming online. We're already doing a ton of hackathons around it. And we're seeing an amazing amount of interest. Second is the onboarding of more data. So I was mentioning if you have any large data sets today and you're struggling with your budgets, then go to dataonboarding.filecoin.io. We have all the tooling available there. Also, there's a form that you can use to reach out to our architects that will help you and educate you. So I'm really excited about seeing more enterprise customers coming on board, just because we have a view into what's coming, but we cannot talk about it here yet. But I'm hoping next year we can talk about more use cases, more Lockheed Martins of the world, more research institutes that are storing data on Filecoin and also taking advantage of smart contracts. So that's really what I'm excited about for next year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm also excited to see all of the new data sets that are going to come onto the network and the way they're going to be able to be utilized by the Filecoin virtual machine. I think that there's been a lot of talk about the advancement in AI, even just in the last couple of weeks. We've seen, just huge steps forward. I think one of the things that's not talked about as much is how much data and compute that having large functional generative AI takes. And I think it's really opening up people's eyes to the power of and need for large data sets and large storage models. And those are frankly extremely expensive. OpenAI took $1 billion in investment from Microsoft, and most of that was in Azure credit. I think as the rest of the world is seeing just how expensive and how powerful AI is, it's really opening up people's eyes to the need for inexpensive, decentralized storage options where you really own your own data and you're able to have things happen in a transparent and verifiable way.
Do you have one more thing?
Yeah, I want to add something to that. So, as what Megan was saying, so we started off with storage, right? So we have that. We've onboarded a ton of capacity. We're growing really fast. Second is the smart contract, which is going to come out in the next 2 months, which is already running in beta, which is amazing. The third one is exactly what Megan was saying, is the ability to compute, because that's our end goal, right? One is we're preserving data, but we're preserving it not just because of, we want to preserve it, but we actually want to monetize it, we want to use it, we want to, put it in action. And that's why today we're already working on decentralized compute on top of Filecoin. So if you're interested in that, again, go to filecoin.io, but there you'll actually see we're working with a ton of decentralized compute partners to unlock basically the value of that data. And that's what I'm excited about as well, is sort of these three layers coming together, which really gets us to what we would call a decentralized data center stack, actually, where you can not just store but also actively run dApps and perform actions on your data. So that's really what I'm excited about.
Well, great, Stefan, Megan. I look forward to watching the progress on MDM, smart contracts, decentralized compute. This is great. Thanks for your time. Thanks for being here. Thanks to Digital.Davos for hosting us, and signing off.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What's going on there?
So yeah, the camera's working.
Sorry,
It was like a power outage or something, because that went off, this went off, but that was still running. But I have the rest of it on here. Half of it went live, and then I can just combine two videos.
Okay.
we combine them and shoot them out again.
Okay, that would be great.
What is what's power outage?
I don't know. And it just, that, I got that back on, but I couldn't get this back on.
Okay, that's George.
I had the rest on here.
George, what is power outage?
It wasn't, I don't know, I got everything back.
Thank you. That was great.
I'm sorry.
No, that is fine.
This
That
is out of our control.
Live events. Live events, my friend. I'm gonna hand.
Yeah, we got it.
I'll give you your mic back.